he's like casual. We're talking. He's like, oh yeah, I got a Seadory 25, whatever. And I'm like, oh, I don't. And of course, this is when I didn't know anything. Expert now. And now, of course, I found out like it's like my dream boat. And then I find a video because he's had, I don't know if you know this, our guest, who shall not be named yet. It's like 17 different podcasts plus Seadory.
When Chip Wilson's on, we're gonna fly in his plane.
Well, that's obviously. Now, I have decided we're going to talk like 78% boats. You saw the show notes. I actually call them the boat notes.
Let's talk about something.
Stuff you don't post. 3 a.m. honesty. Deep talk in a Denny's parking lot. The 3 a.m. version of the story. The 5% podcast. Hey Tom, pass the pancakes. So who is our guest?
Hey, it's Kael Campbell.
From?
From
You don't even know.
From Red Seal. I know that.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, we don't know geographically where he's from. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Appreciate it, guys.
You think.
After that intro.
They don't get stronger than that.
That's good.
I mean, the magic of television. They're like, you're not even here yet, and then you just walked in. It'll be great.
Beautiful.
So we jump right into this. We get into the 5%. I know everybody here read their show notes. That was I slaved. I can see by your face you are into these notes. You are prepped. All right. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure, Jude.
What's your 5%? What's
My
going on?
5%. I felt a real moment of joy that got me thinking about things. My oldest son just set up his first office for his little 3D printing business, right? And my other son is off traveling right now, and I'm just made me realize like I'm in the post-parenting phase, right? And like just feeling enormously like grateful that the next generation just like figures it out and moves on, like in spite of whatever we did to screw them up. So
I mean, if yours are turning out well, I mean.
Yeah. So I'm and not to take up too much time, but I hear a lot of people being a little hopeless or sad about the coming generation, right? And how hard it is, and I think that optimism about the future is the better emotion because they figure it out, and easier to see that when it's already happened than when you're in the thick of it.
Thank you for that, Tom. I really appreciate that. I'm going to stick with your. First of all, we'll see if continuity picked up what just happened. But I'm going to stick with your theme, and I'm possibly going to make Tom a little uncomfortable. I was listening to the news recently, and they were talking about the epidemic of workplace loneliness. It made me happy for one reason, and that was in my gut. I don't know why. I can't quantify it. I don't have proof, but in my gut, I knew there was something missing when I come in to work every day and I am mostly by myself. That lack of connection has resulted in a worldwide, it's not the only thing, but a worldwide epidemic in loneliness, 200 peer-reviewed papers. And on the heels of that, I thought of you, and I'm 50 years old. You look like you're 37. At this age, you don't get a lot of new friends in life. It's just like you're busy. You've had kids. You've gone through the thing. You're set. And so in you, I have an actual friend. I believe truly. I feel that way. And it's easy to say those things, but like the litmus test is: did you guys find any time ever? And I don't care if it's related to work, because this is not work, right? Like we've actually hung out. I have a great time. I phone you. You're 10 times busier than I am. You pick up the phone most times. I am mad about the times you don't, but I'll get over it. But that's an honest. That's a That's a true thing. Like that is happiness. You know what I mean? Like getting a new friend. That's no pressure, by the way. Yeah, new friend this late in life. That's pretty.
And I don't even have a boat.
I know, but I'm working on you. I'm
Canoe?
working on it. Yeah. Well, that's not really, but yeah. All right, my friend.
Yeah, 5% going with the kid theme. My wife just announced yesterday, she sent me a text. She's like, I'm going to the Women's Field Hockey Masters in Rotterdam. So it's the World Masters. And she's like, we can't afford to bring the whole family. And I'm like, we cannot afford not to. We just finished the Olympics. My kids are 5 and 8. So we're going to go. Backpack around Europe, do it on the cheap, but really experience the national participation. You know, she's got to buy her own jerseys and stuff. You know, just like our Olympians, they got to fund their own dime quite a bit of the way. But yeah, it's just looking forward to it. My kids are 5 and 8. They're going to be 6 and 9 by the time we get there. So yeah, it
Fantastic.
brings me back a bit to my childhood when I traveled around the world with my mom. So yeah, looking forward to that.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I would love to do something like that.
Yeah.
Well, sticking with the show format that everyone is extremely familiar with. I mean, locked in. Tom, you are up with the hot take, hard truth section of the show that you're prepared for.
We could just, roll
no. God,
the teleprompter.
We are good. You go ahead. It's pretty easy. You want me to ask a question?
Just rolls right off, doesn't it? Hey, Kael.
Yeah.
So, okay, we know you because of your recruiting business, right?
Yeah.
And you've been in it for a long time, right? I mean, I've probably known you maybe 20 years almost, probably.
Yeah.
We first bumped into each other. What's going on in the world of recruiting right now?
I think there's a ton of micro markets for recruiting, right? So there's cities, and then there's the national market. So it's amazing how many people will only switch between big cities, or they might make a switch to another place, but it's hard. A lot of people, they've purchased houses, condos, and the idea of trying to sell them in a falling market, it just adds stress and uncertainty. And yeah, it's hard to get people to make moves. And one of the themes of the show is, I think, is going to be about friendship. People are very unlikely to leave their current employer if they've got a best friend at work.
Which comes back to the epidemic of loneliness.
Yeah,
We literally talked about that.
Yeah, and if somebody's working remotely, that best friend quotient isn't quite as important, right? Because they might have a good friend who they work remotely with, but it's quite different than going in every day, building the hundreds of hours of communication, time together, and some of that outside of work. So I think it's increasingly hard to get people to make a move because of all those issues, right? So we're just doing a national search for a director of logistics, and a few people want to move out of Montreal. High taxes, good housing market, but the number of people who reject out of Vancouver, Calgary, I think a lot of it has to do with a dropping housing market. And then some people who are also renting, they might have started renting in 2019, 2018 when rental rates were low. They're not willing to switch. Rents are coming down, but they still haven't returned to affordability for
Do you
a
think
lot
it's
of families.
generally just a reflection of just the general sub-perfect economic mojo that just people don't feel like taking a risk in a risky environment?
Yeah, that's a big thing, is taking a risk. Switching jobs is about risk, and how can you minimize that risk for people? Can you provide relocation assistance? Can you make sure the process looks like it's going to be good and transparent for them so they're not risking even their time? So I think we have a good opportunity to help people with that, but you can't make water out of wine,
Yeah.
right? Like
So like you've been in this business for a long time. Yeah. Have you seen that kind of go in waves over time, or is this like a new thing, you think?
I think it's a bit of an increase, right? So we talk about uncertainty with tariffs and trade. I think that permeates through the marketplace. Huh. I mean, even when Quebec had a referendum on separation, I wasn't in recruitment at that time. I was too young. But with Alberta doing it, it's just a little bit of extra uncertainty. So I think a big thing for employers is take away that uncertainty. Like, get rid of the 3-month wait on benefits. Like, change it to a week or nothing. Yeah. Like why add that uncertainty? I've got a family of 4. It makes a big difference if you have benefits coverage, sure. Right? So what uncertainties can an employer take away? And it's hard.
Running on that theme,
yeah.
We all know your recruitment. You need help with recruitment, call Kael, Red Silk Recruiting, commercial done. But just in terms of recruitment and, of course, retention, which is a big part of what you do and how you coach people, what is the thing employers are doing or not doing that's, either hindering them or helping them retain or recruit people? Like, what is the thing they're missing or doing really well?
I think really mapping out their onboarding. So what's that first day look like? And one of my team members was really good at getting that email a couple days before saying, here's where you park, here's what happens for lunch, here's how we dress, right? Because it's that uncertainty of going there and actually starting that first day and making sure that they've replied to that email, that there's somebody there to meet them, that there's another person there to meet them if that person's sick, that their computer actually works, or they're going to get the right amount of orientation if it's an industrial environment, if the safety is happening, and they also get an idea of the work and they get to meet people. I think it's really important to map out that first day at the very least, because people are going to decide in the first couple hours if they're going to quit.
So I'm going to guess that out of that, like, there's a takeaway for all of us that hire, because you spend most of your time in an interview talking about, like your experience, and don't just think about that social comfort thing. So, like, how do you start doing that early on in the process?
Number one, I remember when I first got into Google Analytics, I looked at our website, and our About Us page was one of the most visited parts of our website.
Really?
Huh.
Right? So having that About Us page, having everybody on it, having something personal about them. We did some diversity training, and one of the things we asked her, and it's like, what languages do you speak? And I got the chance to share what languages I'm interested in, what languages I hear at home. My wife's Korean, so our in-laws have a suite in our house. So like I can understand a little bit of Korean, and just adding those little flavors for everybody there is helpful. Any employer I talk to, I say, tell me about where the people this person is going to work with are from. Because it might make a difference if somebody has just moved here from Ireland, if somebody's just moved 4 years ago from a place, to have somebody who's similar, right? So the About Us page is super key. Like you can spend all this time on landing pages or.
I just am hiring right now, and so you put an ad up on LinkedIn and you get instantly 50 resumes, and then you have the task of like going through 50 resumes, right?
Yeah.
But I just know you're always looking for something to hang your hat on somebody, and then when you find out that they they canoe, whatever the thing is, and it's like suddenly there's like a little connection with that one of 50 swipes that you have to make to get down to
and they're doing the same with you, right? Like that I like to, one of the lines I've used for 20 years is there's no sober unemployed X, right? It's whether it's a controller, or it's a logistics person, or a engineer, or a millwright. There's nobody who's really fully unemployed in Canada. There's definitely underemployed, right? But if you're handy, you don't have to be handsome. If you're handy, you can find work, right? So, what are the threads that are going to kind of bring us together. So having the ability for them to browse your website and maybe ask questions about the role and the company, but also the people, right? Because they're coming to work with people. So definitely, I think having a good About Us page that has the faces on it. Yeah, a headhunter might come and headhunt, your GM or something, but they're going to find them anyways. Like we pay for all these tools, and like I've got org charts of most large companies and stuff. But if you put it out there that this is who we are, I think it'll help attract the better people who will also respond in kind, and that they can come into an interview and ask at least one personal question about the hiring team. That makes a big difference. Like if you're hiring a salesperson or a GM or an integrator, any really empathetic, real important role, they're going to have to ask a really good question about somebody in that room, right? So where are they going to get that? They might get it off an old LinkedIn profile that you haven't updated in 20 years, or your About Us page. And it's good for SEO. Also, having that About Us page, it really makes a difference. AI is going to crawl it, right? AI search is going to crawl it. So if somebody's looking in for an engineering job in Victoria, they're going to go to that About Us page and they'll see the engineers that work at your firm, right? And they'll be like, oh, I want to work for that person. So you get better applicants, I think.
It's interesting you should say that, because when I think about an About Us page, it's sort of a place people go to, and if they sort of read the right information, they're still going to feel like they've been taken care of.
Yeah.
You know who else takes care of us? Our sponsors at EO. We have some fantastic sponsors. There's a couple I want to shout out right now. That was beautiful. Are you kidding me with these looks right now?
We're going to have the Kool-Aid man burst through that wall and
Oh
just
my gosh, it's going to be great.
like serve us a cool, refreshing drink. No, sir.
Yeah, well, thanks to these sponsors, we get to go to places like GLC. We get to hold events and have people like Marina, or frickin' tomorrow, Rabidou is coming, Ben Rabidou. I hope I got his name right. That'd be embarrassing. And a couple sponsors I'm going to mention real quick. Vern Fisher from Fisher Financial.
Formerly Fisher Financial.
Formerly Fisher Financial. What's it called now? Really?
There'll be some work in post.
Yeah, what's it called?
I don't remember, but it's not Fisher Financial.
Oh my
He
God.
merged with a guy on the mainland.
Okay, well, he's going to be pissed off about 25 posts I've done. This is all getting cut. So,
But it did alliterate nicely, I thought.
Thank you. Just give me a pause here. One of the sponsors I'd really like to thank is BMO. BMO is fantastic, and I believe they were instrumental in tomorrow's event, and this will come out after that. But
Yeah, Adam's brought a lot of value to the chapter.
Adam McLean from BMO, fantastic. You need some high-end banking, you need to talk to somebody about money, whatever it is. Adam is tremendously experienced. He actually helped me out with my first ever business loan over a decade ago when I had no business getting any loans. I paid it back. But yeah, Adam's been fantastic. And then another one I'd really like to call it that I've had experience with is actually is Gabe. I don't know if you've ever worked with Gabe, but Gabe has
Bell
been-
Rock.
Yeah, Gabe from Bell Rock, thank you. But he was so enthusiastic about the EOA program, and he's actually come in and he's done a couple of talks. He knows a lot of stuff. Like, he is extremely deep on a variety of topics. And he's really, really good at sort of coming to people where they're at.
Yeah. I couldn't
Anyway,
agree more.
huge, I can't say enough, huge thanks to the sponsors. Thank you for everything. If you come to an event and you see one of our sponsors, please go introduce yourself.
Hug.
Give them a hug. They love that, absolutely. So moving on, we do have a couple of news items that we were going to chat about. Yeah, absolutely, I'm all in. And I'm not, like, I provided lots of context here. I'm not so much interested in nuts and bolts of the actual stories, but I'm curious from both of you guys. Something I found really interesting that I was reading about early this morning, to be honest, was sort of like, we've talked about Kuzma and tariffs and, the big orange monster and all the uncertainty everywhere that everybody is feeling. But interestingly enough, the confidence index among Canadian businesses has been on a rise. And ever since sort of like this isn't a liberal thing, but like basically when we started thinking about elbows up and buying Canadian and sort of like what does it mean to be Canadian as a going forward. What have you guys experienced with the people you're talking about in terms of general optimism, and how are people dealing with this faced with that like how is it possible that there's feelings of positivity despite the current environment?
So yeah, it's a multi-edged sword for sure. I mean, I know my kind of 40,000-foot view is that I feel like our federal government is chipping away in the right direction, right? And there's been a slow, steady, just a lot of reversing of policies that, for me, build a sense of confidence. More locally, we've just seen our provincial government who's like hung its hat on infrastructure, building hospitals, building lots of stuff, and that's my business. And they've just pulled a whole pile of stuff off the table, and so that it's a little unnerving that they're busy spending less, and getting to a responsible place is awesome. I'm just not quite sure how they got so out of control, right? How they can be pulling back and still watch this deficit kind of go a little crazy is not an awesome thing, right? But construction is, there was a definite slowdown in residential construction, right? Although commercial has stayed strong. And I know construction hiring is in good condition and it's not looking bad. So, yeah, I think overall we're all in a bit of a wait and see, but like I feel optimistic about generally where we're going.
That's nice to hear. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the defense spending, like I'm not a big bombs and airplanes guy. I mean, I love airplanes. Don't get me wrong, but I think the defense spending and the investment in communities across the country and in the north, I think that makes a lot of sense. It might be a hard pill to swallow when there's layoffs in other parts of the government, but they're going to be spending in Victoria, which is good. They're going to be spending up in Comox. They're going to be spending up in Alberta, across the country. So, and then there's a lot of small businesses that feed into it. Like I think Halifax has a couple hundred. I think we might have dozens of defense-related businesses here. Even retired Navy people, I know they have small consulting businesses. Having that increase in spending and spending it here, I think makes a lot of sense. And we need some pillars, right? As you've mentioned, Tom, there's some residential construction pullback. It looks like things are continuing on the rental side. There was some big investment in rentals, and that's going to help. I feel a little bit sorry for some of the developers because their rental rates are going to drop because there's so much coming online.
Tom constantly crying for developers. I usually a box of tissue on my lap for him because he's like, "Oh, the poor developers." I'm like, "I know, Tom. Those poor." Yeah, totally.
Well,
suck it, Robin.
And it is tough. Like some of them are going to go through a huge reset where they had an excellent run, but the rental prices are going to make such a big difference. Yeah. I had one of my clients come to me and they said, "Here's the job and here's what we want to pay." And I said, "No, we're not going to work on that because the rental rates, and I walked her through the numbers. I said, here's what their take-home pay is going to be, and if they have a two-bedroom apartment, they can't afford a car, right?" Yeah. And seeing rental rates come down 10, 15%, it helps. It helps all businesses. So, yeah, I think there's some optimism there because, everybody wants the white picket fence and that dream, but it's less and less. There's way less single-family homes in Vancouver, in Abbotsford, in Langley, in Victoria. They knock them down for townhomes, right? Or condos, or now rentals. But they're building more rentals that families can get into, and rental prices are coming down, and that's important, right? Like, I had a family of 5 growing up, and we moved into a house that basically had 2, maybe 3 rooms, or sorry, a family of 7 with 5 kids, and we got by. So, anyways, I'm optimistic about rental prices coming down, because that affects the workplace. It affects employers when they're looking at hiring, and defense. You know, two bright spots. And America, as much as we, have our differences, our revenues and our sales to the U.S. are at the highest point they've ever been in 20 years. And my counterparts in the States, they're making investments, they're trying out AI, they're hiring more people. And as long as the U.S. is moving ahead, and I definitely think for businesses and the rich, they are moving ahead in the U.S.
Well, you had a big impact on me just in the Globe and Mail the other day. There was a GDP per capita of each state and province in North America.
Yeah.
And Alberta, the richest Canadian province, was like quite a ways down that list.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the extent to which the wealth of Canadians has fallen behind that of our American neighbors over time is significant, and it's time for us to turn that around. Right?
Not potentially not directly correlated, but one of the things that I look at all the time is my favorite report. I go to Google Analytics and I'll look at, okay, so what's going on with our website in this period. I just did this 2 days ago. So over the last 30 days, what pages are people going to, what's going on, and then I really like to see where's the traffic coming from. And then I love the comparison from the same period 12 months earlier. What was fascinating for me on that one is also not great news, but the local economies, Vancouver Island and Vancouver, the traffic is actually down by 50% from those places. It's up slightly in Alberta. From Ontario, our traffic is up 331%.
Wow.
Which is fantastic because that's where most of our clients are from. And, as we all know, there'll be lots of reasons for that. But as a business that is very much focused on new startups, and those are typically people that are interested in us, to see that big jump, because the Ontario numbers are big, to go down by up or down by 30%, these other markets, it's like onesies, twosies, but the other one, it's huge. And that, in terms of optimism, that was... We are looking at a conference, to say
That's a cool anecdote. I mean, especially with Ontario, that's kind of, taking the brunt of the America issue.
Yeah, because it is this is just me personally, but I always feel pressure about making the right decision, whether it's spending money or maybe it's a strategy or whatever it is. This can feel crushing when you hear the news and you feel like you're one mistake away from a potential disaster. But despite all that, sort of like you guys were mentioning, I actually feel quite optimistic, and I think I'm realistic about our size, that we're sort of independent of what's going on because the market is so much bigger than my small, tiny business.
Yeah.
That there's lots out there. If I just I feel like it's not even always the right move. I just have to make some moves, be consistent, and do the stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Well, and one of the big things we've seen happen decade over decade is if there's something that's negatively impacting and it's causing layoffs, good people will start businesses, right? So when BlackBerry shut down, tons of entrepreneurs came out of that Waterloo area. They started businesses. And the barriers to starting a business compared to 20 years ago are, you can set up a website in seconds for pennies. Yeah. It might cost you $15, but you can set up a really good website, and that's not what makes a business, but it's cheaper than printing business cards. And I think there's good print businesses out there. One of my good customers, they're a paper manufacturer, and they're expanding while some are shrinking. But with any business closing, with with the pressures, there's going to be really good people who are going to start businesses, and the barriers to starting businesses are coming down. Like government red tape is still there, but the digital red tape has just come down a ton. I applied for a grant for my podcasting media business, and instead of spending, probably getting a team member because I'm not detail oriented, instead of spending hundreds and if not thousands of dollars of manpower time, I used AI and a couple of windows, and I was able to complete this grant in not minutes, but definitely not hours. It was probably an hour and 15 minutes. So I'm optimistic that people are going to figure things out and really really grow their businesses.
Somebody made the point the other day I thought was so brilliant. It's like the world is not going to run out of problems.
Yeah.
And as long as there are problems, there will be problem solvers out there working on that. And what a great time to solve problems, because the power of AI coding tools and stuff to solve people's problems is just enormous. I just think we're going to end up in a world where, maybe 90% of coding jobs as we know them now are going to change significantly, but the world is going to create 10, 50, 100 times more awesome solutions.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I mean, right now there's a lot of AI slop that's going to have to get cleaned up by coders, right? It's a new skill that they're acquiring, and I can have a vision to create a product, but the actual people who execute on that, they're still going to be engineers, right? If you want to create a product that sells to big corporations, the security stuff is going to have to be done by a security expert. I'm sorry, we have seen some huge failures of AI, and it hallucinates, and you need good people working with it to make sure it executes well. So,
yeah.
I think it's time to get personal.
Yeah.
Strap in. Here comes Tom. You're welcome. No pressure. No pressure, best friend.
What I know about you, Kael, you are a guy that is passionate about being out on the water.
yeah.
Tell me, where does that come from?
Tom, give me what I want. We're getting to boats.
So my passion of being out on the water, we used to camp. I grew up, born on Vancouver Island in Comox, lived in Courtenay, and we used to camp at Kitty Coleman, which is like a beautiful rock beach looking across at the Coast Mountains. And my dad bought a Starcraft aluminum boat, and he would take us out, and I caught a probably 25-pound spring salmon. And there's a picture of me and my brother holding it up with my dad in the middle. And that picture, has hung in my family home for many years. And it was really kind of cemented just a seed in me. I ended up commercial fishing when I was 16, and I really spent a lot of time on the water. I started out as an oyster farmer at 16. At sea. And then commercial fishermen up and down the coast. We could see Alaska, fished in Haida Gwaii, off the coast of the West Coast, caught tuna, halibut, salmon. And
I hear that is a really tough job.
Oh yeah. Like the world's most dangerous catch. Wasn't that dangerous, but I remember sleeping in...
Second most dangerous catch. It doesn't sell as well, but still.
I remember sleeping in the hull of the boat, kind of near the bow of the boat, and the waves were so big, there was stuff crashing around in the cabin upstairs, and I was so tired from doing the work. I said, I'm going to roll back over and go to sleep, because I can't control the ocean. And the work ethic I learned from that and the people that I was working with was it was insane. I mean, you got up before the sun came up and you put those hooks down, and then they woke up the cabin boy. They woke me up, and I would come up, no coffee, right? I was 16. I'm a tea drinker, anyways, and we were bringing fish in, and then after the morning bite, we'd have some breakfast and stuff, and you would work. You'd freeze fish, get it ready for the Japanese sushi market, flash frozen. You're dipping blast furnace frozen salmon into salt water so it can go to the market in Japan. And you get out, you're floating in either offshore or you're anchored, and you're looking up at the stars, eating some ice cream, and those experiences, will be with me till the day I die. And now I can recreate it, even though commercial fishing is not as big as it used to be. On the recreational side, I can bring my kids out, and we can catch some of the best fish in the world. And I haven't had a night where we've been at anchor and I've been out with the kids looking at the stars. They've been worn out by the time you get to 7, 8 o'clock. But really.
You don't wake them up at 4 in the morning
to look at the stars. They wake up. They wake up and get into bed with me. But
drop them hooks, boys.
Yeah, I mean those were the moments that shaped it, and then I went off to school, started a business, and I got back into it on my dad's boat. We rebuilt it probably for the 3rd time. And then I sing about boats. Phil Brooks and Drew Irwin are one of the biggest and the best yacht rebuilders and maintenance companies in the Pacific Northwest. The half-life for aluminum and fiberglass is decades. So you can rebuild my dad's old boat, like a 1967 Starcraft. Me and my brothers, we rebuilt it, and we went out and caught a bunch of salmon about, I'd say 18, 19 years ago, and had the time of our lives with my dad. He's still alive, but he was just starting to decline in health, had a couple strokes. But we had the time of our life, all the boys out on the boat, and I'm like, I've lived on this island this long. I moved away for a little bit, but I moved back here. I got to get a boat, right? And there's so many entrepreneurs and people I know on this island who want to get a boat, and I'm like, just do it. I wish I was in the boat business.
Are you listening, wife?
So, okay, I'm a landlubber.
Yeah.
Right. Well.
No, you're not. You're a canoeist.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I spent my 400 years, whatever, on rivers and lakes. Right. So when I got out to the coast 20 years ago, like the ocean seemed like this, sort of frightening, unknown thing with bizarre forces. Explain to me the ocean.
I've done a lot of diving, I've done a little bit of free diving, and just what you discover. I've been here almost 50 years. For the first time this past summer, I caught squid, and I've made my own calamari, right? It's a new discovery that happens. There are spots that are 1,200 feet deep, just in between here and Seattle, right? Like there's the types and amount of fish are just amazing. So it's just magical what you can discover. And there's safe places as well, right? There's so many bays you can paddle a canoe in, a paddleboard. I've got into paddleboarding for many years, and there's safe bays. In the summer you can learn to get comfortable, and then definitely it is a scary place getting out there. I volunteered for search and rescue, and there's so many ways things can go wrong. But in the summer, in protected bays and inlets, this coast is amazing. And you can do it on a canoe, a paddleboard, a little rowboat, and wear a life jacket, and then progress from there, right? So I wouldn't say take baby steps, but get out there and really enjoy this coast.
How do your kids feel about the ocean?
Love it. Yeah. My daughter, she's 5. She's like, you always take James out without me, and I'm like, okay. So we're making.
In exactly that tone of voice.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Well, then she switches to the teenager, and she might up the ante a little bit. But we go to Poets Cove, which is on Pender Island, one of the great resorts. There's resorts all the way up and down this coast. There's high-end ones like Nemo Bay Resort, and then there's family-friendly ones where you can moor up, spend $50, go use their hot tub and their pool, and they've got music in the summer and stuff. So I make a point to try and get out with each of the kids alone once a month, and we might anchor up and fish, or go to Sydney Spit and just run around. So they love it, but the big thing is they're moving a lot, right? So you got to get to shore, you got to get to these spots, you got to get to Portland Island, and the history you start to learn here. There were settlers from Hawaii on Portland Island, small. There's lots of connections to people from all over the world who come to Vancouver Island and the Gulf Islands and stuff, and you can learn about the history of these islands. And yeah, so I grew up on the Big Island of Vancouver Island, and I haven't been to the Big Island in Hawaii, but I really believe it should all be explored. And if you can do it on a boat, or you can take the ferries, ride your bike and go onto the ferries, or take a car, but it should all be explored by everybody, including kids. And
what I didn't appreciate when I moved here, I'd lived in Toronto for a decade before coming to the coast, and so in Toronto, if you want to get to the wilderness, it's like it's a major, like, you got to clear.
It's 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
Especially if you go Friday afternoon.
And I'm not slagging Ontario. There is fantastic, but here, you hop in a kayak. You're 4 paddle strokes away from the dock in Sydney or wherever, and you're in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like immediately in the wilderness. And even though it's so busy, in a way, out there, there are a lot. There's other boats. There's the occasional like freighter and stuff going by, but it's like you just feel like immediately in the wilderness.
Yeah, and you can sneak away to coves. There's so much. So definitely the marine businesses on Vancouver Island are amazing. They've been some of our customers over the years, and the marine innovation that happens here, it's a great spot. And we also have, I think, instant connections as we look to expand markets in the U.S. or expand to other parts of the world. Our connection to the ocean and islands and stuff, I think, is a big differentiator, right? There's a lot of Filipinos who live in Victoria and on Vancouver Island. Like, they're used to the island lifestyle, right? And it doesn't matter if you're in Jamaica, Ireland, anywhere in the world. If you've lived on an island, you got a bit of a connection. So that's what I found.
So what did you learn on the water that you brought into business when you started up Red Seal?
That's interesting. I remember my old captain. He took a lot of care in just keeping the boat running, keeping the maintenance, doing the maintenance. And I think that's important on businesses, right? Like, is what are we maintaining? Are we monitoring our website? Are we checking with the Google Analytics and making the upgrades, maintaining things? And also, one of the things I also remembered was when my old deckhand, who I worked with, was hired. He was interviewing him, and as he was working on the boat, and he was attaching a shackle, and he was working over the water, and the deckhand put his hands under it. Just a small, thoughtful gesture. So he was thinking ahead, what could happen? Yeah. And to me, if you're interviewing people or hiring people, like, how thoughtful are they? Are they thinking about just answering the questions, or are they thinking about the whole experience? So,
I love that metaphor of the boat and maintaining the boat, because, like, in business, things can go sideways really quick. Yeah. But it's like, that's the thing about being on the water, is that everything can go from being like, everything's cool, everything's awesome, to like, everything is very bad, like in a heartbeat, in a literal heartbeat, right?
Yeah. Well, and a personal 5% is my son. Our rule was you never go out on the bow, except for we had a bunch of extra kids on the boat, and it was a bit of chaos. My good friend had his 2 kids, and I said, okay, you guys can go out on the bow because we're not moving. And then we started moving a little bit, so we were going under 5 knots, and one of the kids said, can I drive? And I said, yeah, if your dad is helping you drive, like, you need we need parent supervision, right? And all of a sudden, my friend yells, "Kael, James is in the water." And my son had fallen into the ocean, and this is winter. And fortunately, I was so quick, I pulled him out before he had actually gone down the full side of the boat, wearing a Mustang life jacket, and advertisement here from Mustang. They're,
Mustang.
but a great Canadian company, now owned by a parent company, but still in Vancouver and producing some of the most safest life jackets in the world. And you got to be ready, right? What are the steps that you're taking should something go wrong, right? And in our case, if we're on the boat, you're wearing a life jacket. If you're on the dock and you're a kid, you're wearing a life jacket. And the only time I kind of think you should get away from that is, can you tread water for 30 minutes?
In freezing cold.
In 2-degree water, yeah.
Yeah, like maybe that kid cannot wear a life jacket on the dock, right? That's and it should be a rule for all of us. Are we able to tread water for 30 minutes?
I was in the, the reserves, it's in the Navy Reserves, right?
Nice.
And I say that just because I know some captains, or I know a captain, and I am not a Navy guy. But one of the things they make you do is they put on a big cotton jumpsuit onto you, and warm pool, no waves.
Yeah.
And they make you tread water, I think, for 5 minutes. It might not even be that long. And of course, we're all fit as heck, right? Yeah. It's not the word I'd use, very fit. And they tell us this test, we're all like, oh my God, what a waste of time. Can't you just give us it? You jump in the water, you figure out how heavy cotton is.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a bit of a trick. You had to figure out to just barely keep your mouth above the water, and that was the hack. But when they get out, they talk to you about, in real life, freezing. Yeah. In real life, waves. You can't just keep your mouth above water. Yeah. It gets a lot harder. This is the minimum standard, the best possible conditions that would never exist in real life. And then they get real. Like, if there was 30 of you that went in, this is how many would make it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And only if you do these things. But yeah, it is a real, water scares me a lot.
Yeah.
Much respect.
Well, and the professionalism of our Navy, I got out with a pretty senior captain. He's been in the Navy for about 30 years. He came out on my boat. He'd never fished for squid before. He brought his son and his wife, and we're catching squid. And the difference between his professionalism and mine, like, we can say AI will replace experts, but they won't. Like the Navy expertise, somebody who's made it to the level of captain, the comfort I felt being on my own boat.
Give me some examples. Like, what were the things he did that were?
So I would ask him to do something, and he would repeat it to me exactly. So I would say, "Can you turn to port?" He said, "Turn into port." And I mean, it's a communication thing we should all be doing. If our team is asking us to do something, just repeating it. And so, like, I wasn't giving him a command in my mind, but in his mind, I was the captain in control. And he was repeating all the orders I was giving him. And it was a great experience because I go out with my friends and, I ask other people to operate the boat. Usually they're very competent, but sometimes there's varying levels of competence. But being out there with a captain, we're heading back. And if you've ever been into fishing derbies, you know what nautical twilight is. Astronomical twilight. Because usually the rules will say when you can start fishing. So usually it's sunrise or twilight. And if you're going to push the rules, you'd be like, well, nautical twilight's pretty easy. And we were going to head back in. And he says, oh, don't worry, we don't have to rush. We've got a couple hours of nautical twilight. And it helped me because I know about nautical twilight, but he knew when it was. And we didn't have to rush back. That was just one of the things that gave me a lot more comfort in, I knew it, but not at the level that he knows both the waters around Vancouver Island and how to operate a boat and how to communicate on a boat. So it's very interesting to be out with a true professional when I've been on the ocean for 45 years, right? And my dad would let me drive the boat, and I've been through courses, I'm certified, but man, it's just a whole nother level when you're with a world-class operator. And that's what we've got with our defense, right? And, whether it's, there's times when things go wrong with our military and our Navy and stuff, but you know those men and women are doing the work and getting out with some of them, and you know some EO entrepreneurs are former military, you know, reservists. It's eye-opening, right? How amazing they are, and I mean that's another resource that our community has and nationally we have is just a level of training these guys get, not just here, but also when they're training with the U.S. military, when they're training with the Korean military. Like they're out there, they're doing the work. And yeah, so I think it's a great asset. And yeah, I'm learning constantly on the boat about communication, about risk too. You know, like I definitely fish offshore with my son, and I have to understand my comfort and risk and make adjustments and make investments too, right? Like I pay for a very good web designer, developer, and as much as we think we can do things with AI, you know, the difference between his expertise and mine is night and day, and it's worth the hundreds of dollars, if not the thousands of dollars we spend on him. So
My level of expertise, first time ever driving a boat, fairly young, and a little fishing boat, probably 25-footer, something like that. And I'm with my buddy and his dad, and it's my turn to drive. I'm very excited, as you can imagine. Driving the boat, and he looks up, he goes, yeah, you know, if anything comes, turn, talk to me, let me know. And just go for it. I'm like, great, I got this. Not sure how this happens, but all of a sudden there's a ferry there. BC ferry, pretty big boat. Again, not sure how they sneak up on you. And he looks over and he goes, turn the boat. What would you do? You'd probably turn the boat. Not me. I looked right back at him. I'm like, okay, which way? And then he looks back and goes, anyway, don't hit the More embarrassingly, actually, I was so slow, he left what he was doing, came over, grabbed the wheel. I didn't get to steer again.
yeah,
So can I go on your boat?
you can come on my boat.
So, Kael,
Yeah.
would you leave us with a resource that's had a big impact on you? Book, podcast?
A book or podcast. It's interesting. The Power of Habit is a good book. I see you've got that book here, Jude. But The Marriage Habit is a new book, just published by an EOR from California. And I've been married 10 years, and you know, on the 5%, it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle for me, my wife. Staying married is about doing the work, and I think building good habits related to your marriage. And a lot of the learnings I am getting from that book, I'm not even halfway through it. It's like, oh, these are things that I need to also implement with my employees. Some of the rules around conflict are things that you can transfer to other areas of your life, especially your business life. But one of the most important relationships we're going to have is with our spouse or our future spouses. So The Marriage Habit, you know, definitely love it. And yeah, it's got some great teachings on...
Yeah. On a specific thing you took away from it, or a thing you guys implemented?
So one of the things is do the work yourself. So they talk about, it's usually one partner who picks up this book, and I picked it up, I shared it with my wife, but choosing a word to interrupt your patterns of conflict is a skill. So you could have a word like, doesn't matter what it is, but it's one that you use to say, I'm too elevated, or I feel we're getting too elevated, let's take a break. And that's something that can happen in your business life as well, right? So you don't actually have to say the word to your customer if you're feeling like, I've got a customer, they're upset about the candidate, the hire that they made not working out. And instead of me getting worked up, I can say to myself, pause. And I can say, listen, I'm sorry, I've got to run right now. This is really important to me. Can we pick this up tomorrow? What time works for you, right? So taking a moment, in the case of the book, is having an agreed upon word that interrupts the pattern, hopefully a fun one. Like it could be, Joomla or whatever it is. Make up a word or choose one that means something. So interrupt the pattern and then come back and deal with the conflict as well, right? Once you've cooled off. And that's been pretty important to me. I used to have a huge anger streak. I do a lot of meditation now. But when I was younger, I didn't have the tools to deal with conflict. And this is a new tool that I learned at 49, almost 50, is have a word, whether it's one that you do unspoken yourself or you agree upon with your partner, to interrupt the pattern and come down when you're more
Fantastic.
calm.
Yeah. Nice.
Because
Are you ready for the final segment?
I'm ready.
Okay, rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
These
You
are
didn't,
like,
you didn't notice that I skipped over that?
yeah, I'm not letting it happen. All right, cover letter, still relevant or dead?
Dead. If you don't know somebody in the company, you're not going to get the job.
Best interview question you've ever heard?
Tell me about 3 people whose careers you've helped. And you can find out if somebody's an ass kisser or they're really a team player with that question.
Love it. Biggest red flag on a resume?
There's so many. I would say too many KPIs being met.
No, I would say hyphens. Hire for culture fit or skill set? Pick one.
People need to have skills.
What's one thing candidates never ask that they should?
Why is the position vacant?
Remote work, net positive or net negative for culture?
I love remote work, but you need to meet in person, so it's a net negative.
That was a fantastic, excellent, very dense podcast,
On
gentlemen.
the hot seat, though, eh?
On the hot
Nice,
seat.
yeah.
There's a little bit of hotness.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, 3 hot guys, the hot content, coming in hot, boats. I'm still like worked up.
Kael, thanks a lot for coming.
Oh, right. Yes. Thank you. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
You're
We will see you next week. I don't know who's on, or if we're even recording, but appreciate it.